due to factors, that's not going to cost anything. So if you're interested in Chicago, come talk to me. We're kind of working through a lot of moving parts, but if you're interested in going to Chicago, Wednesday night we're leaving, it's an all-day Thursday thing, please come talk to me after the meeting. East Lansing.
That's this week.
That's this week, like this Wednesday.
We might also share a little bit what the ASAG is all about. Varun said there were some students that didn't know what the ASAG was all about. It's really not visiting a company, it's all kinds of companies that are there and projects that people bring to the table and talk about things that they're involved in. And it's kind of like a one-day workshop learning about what's going on in all these different companies. Great place to network.
Yeah.
You're talking about opening up opportunities for yourself. You know, all you got to do is Google ASAG. Go see what it's about. For heaven's sake, wild opportunities there that you can avail yourself of. So check it out.
And if you're interested in going to an ASUG meeting, but you can't do that, the dedication for Chicago, East Lansing, their Michigan's ASUG meeting will be in East Lansing next week, Thursday. So if you guys are interested in that, talk to me. We've been sending out tons of registration links, so I'm sure you've seen one of PJ's. ERP Sim competition, sign up for it. It's an absolutely great event. If you guys have any questions about kind of what kind of time dedication you need for it, or there's some prerequisites, so if you guys want to learn more about that, talk to myself or Dr. Frank Andre knows pretty much everything there is to know about that. It's a great opportunity to network too. I think I say it at every meeting, but the Volkswagen team, the team that Volkswagen sponsored last year, they didn't win, but Volkswagen offered all the people who played on the team internships. So I mean, you really can't beat that. If you guys are interested in doing an e-board position, so if you guys want to run this group, just think you can do it better than us. We're going to have elections at our last meeting, which will be November 19th. Yes, November 19th. That'll be our last meeting. We'll be doing some closing things to talk about what we'll be doing next semester and doing e-board elections for the following year. That's all I have. It's a Monday. TDS is here. First time ever at Central. So I'm going to let them take the rest of the time, so make them feel welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm Shana Longley with TDS. How many of you had an opportunity to hear us chat today during class at all? A handful of you? Not too many. Okay. So for you folks over here that heard us speak earlier today, this first section is going to be a repeat of what you heard, but then Keisha was going to go into it a little bit more, so please bear with us as you hear the message twice. So I'm with, as I mentioned, we're with TDS. I am in our talent acquisition and development team. So I'm in charge of all of our campus relations, internship program, and then just general recruiting for the TDS corporate entity. I'll go over a little bit more about our company here in just a little bit, but I'll have Keshav introduce himself.
Hello everyone, my name is Keshav Rajpal. I'm responsible for the SAP team for TDS, or at least the team that the SAP group reports up into. And part of our visit here today is that we are expanding quite a bit over the next few years. So not only do we maintain the systems for ourselves internally, we're also starting to grow a practice where we're doing hosting services for other ERP customers. So we are spending quite a bit of time trying to grow our practice of being able to provide these services to others. So part of the reason why we're here is not only for ourselves, but also thinking about what it's going to take for us to grow this moving forward.
You got it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Now you got to match volume.
Did you hear me before or no?
No,
No?
not really.
Take two.
I'll run through this again.
Can you hear me? How about now?
I am fine with it.
How about now?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm sorry about that. So my name is Keisha Rajwal. I'm responsible for the department that SAP rolls up into for TDS. And one of the reasons we're excited to be here is that you guys have got a great SAP practice. And for us, we've been trying to grow our teams in that space, not only for our own needs internally for TDS, but we've also started a application management division that is going to be managing SAP for other clients. And a big part of what we're trying to do with the visits here and elsewhere are trying to find great talent for us to help grow that practice and that business for us. So we'll talk about that more towards the end of the presentation, but we're really excited to be here, and thanks for your time.
All right, so we'll go over a little bit about the company, our mission, and then we'll get into a little bit more about specifically what our IT department is made up of, and then Keisha will dive in a lot more into the SAP space. That's okay. All right, so based on all the brands that you see up on the screen, anybody here, by show of hands, recognize any of the brands that you see up there? What brands are we recognizing? TDS, sure. Okay. US Cellular, I heard? Okay, fantastic. So obviously TDS, you probably recognize that brand because you've been seeing it probably around campus here a little bit. US Cellular is probably our most well-known brand, and we'll get into a little bit about that. Keisha and I are with TDS, the top brand there. We were founded in 1969 by Mr. Leroy Carlson. When he started the company, he acquired a number of small rural telephone companies in the Midwest, and he merged them together. And through his acquisitions and his development of our organization, he realized that the telecommunications industry was going to be more than just a telephone company, or just more than telephones, right? There was going to be more to that industry as it evolved. And he called the company Telephone and Data Systems, data being the key word there. And as you can tell by way of where the industry is going, just by being consumers of it, you know that telephones are kind of almost a thing of the past, right? People are cutting the cords. Again, by show of hands, how many of you have landlines or have friends or family that have landlines in their home? An actual cord, right? So, not many of you. Thank you, by the way, for those of you that do. Businesses that have landlines still coming into their offices, a lot of times they're not even a traditional landline service. They're doing so over voice over internet IP, and so that's something that is changing our industry quite rapidly. So we've got about 450 employees at the TDS corporate level. We are technically headquartered out of Chicago. Downtown Chicago is our executive headquarters of about 40 individuals or so, mainly our executive level staff. The rest of the corporate employee base is located in Madison, Wisconsin, and that's where Keisha's team resides, as well as most of the employee population for the corporate entity. TDS, we are primarily focused in the areas of finance, accounting, and IT support solutions and services for the businesses that we own and operate. So those other brands that you see up there, those are the companies that we support. Those are our customers, okay? We take care of everything from a foundational perspective so that they have what they need to run and do their job and focusing on their end customers, okay? So what they do, they're doing things in finance and accounting and IT and marketing and product development and all sorts of other variety of focuses, but it's more for what they're delivering, product, service, solution that they're delivering out. Okay. US Cellular, you'll see there, obviously that's the one that most people knew. US Cellular is our wireless division. We are a regional player, so we are not a national carrier such as an AT&T, a Verizon, or a Sprint. What I will say though is that we compete very, very fiercely with those national carriers in the markets in which we serve. And in a lot of cases, we are actually, we beat them out in many ways in those markets. Two main areas is our customers first, and we do what we need to make our customers happy and to ensure that we're delivering a great product. The other area we're able to, in a lot of cases, beat out our competitors in is our strong network, which is really key because it allows you to have your service that you need at all times. US Cellular is headquartered in Chicago as well. And then if we move over to the middle there, you'll see another TDS logo. That's TDS Telecommunications, and that's where our landline companies started, and then we're rolled up underneath that brand. The TDS Telecom has evolved. Like I said, landlines are becoming a thing of the past, or at least very quickly declining and starting to plateau. So we had to figure out, what are we going to do? How are we going to continue to be a viable organization in this industry called telecommunications? That's where the data comes in. TDS Telecom made some great strides in beefing up their broadband offerings. And so now TDS Telecom is considered a broadband, internet, local long-distance telephone, and TV solutions provider, both on the commercial and the residential side. You'll see there are a few other brands that fall up underneath TDS Telecom. So OneNet IT Solutions, they have been with part of the TDS family of companies now for probably about 5 or so years, made up of 5 different organizations that we've acquired in the hosted and managed services space. So we do things such as data center. We have a number of large data centers throughout the Midwest where we will host servers for small and mid-market organizations. Sometimes we just provide the space and they have their own staff that comes in and manages that for them. We do cloud computing, kind of anything in between. A lot of managed services on that, from that business unit. One of the exciting things with OneNet, which Keisha will probably get into a little bit more in depth, is we received our first external SAP customer through OneNet. So Keisha's team is now partnering with that external client through OneNet to do what they need from an SAP support perspective, and we're hoping that that will continue, hence our growth in the SAP market. As we move further along the bottom there, you'll see Baja Broadband and Ben Broadband. Those are our 2 most recent acquisitions in the broadband space, hoping to help us really develop a really strong foundation for growth in that area, both from a broadband internet perspective as well as a TV solutions perspective to grow that market. Then as we move along to the right, the last company there you will see is Settle Strauss. Settle Strauss is located in Waunakee, which is a real small community just outside of Madison, so not far from where we are. And they're considered a printing, marketing, and digital media organization. A small company of about 200 employees or so, but they are nationally known and recognized. So very proud of all of those businesses that we have up there. This next slide here, you'll see it's our TDS mission, vision, and behaviors. I don't need to read this to you. You all can read the words up there. But what I want to say about this is that the company that Mr. Carlson founded is founded on these values and these behaviors. They're what he knew he wanted a company to stand for because it's what he stood for. And while these are words that show up on a screen, and they're on plaques up in offices, and we have them on flyers that we hand out, we don't have to teach these things to our employees. We don't have to train somebody on what this means. And the reason being is because the people we bring into our organization innately have these things within them. It's who they are. They have high integrity. They believe in what they need to do for the company. They believe in the customer and doing what's right for the customer. They want to work together and collaborate. They want to be innovative. They want to empower the people that are around them, empower their customers, etc. So what we see here is what our culture is. And that is felt when you walk through the doors in any one of our organizations, is you feel these types of things. And that's why we say, while it's up on the wall, we don't have to teach that stuff. Some companies put mission statements up on the wall and you really don't see the alignment there. We're fortunate enough to say that these really ring true with who we are as a company. This slide here, so a lot of groups kind of look at this and kind of give me a funny look. But at TDS, we focus not just on what we do and what we accomplish and what we deliver, but we also focus on how we're delivering it. And in a lot of cases, how we deliver it is just as important, if not more important than what we're delivering. It's important to get a product or a service or a solution delivered to a customer, but how we went about getting that is really key. And it comes down to who we are as an organization. So this is our model that we use to assess each individual. We all have these this model as part of our review, and we have to assess ourselves up against it every year, and throughout the year for that matter. And in the middle, you'll see the self. And what I like to point out here is that the self is at the center of all of that, because if you're not taking ownership for your own development, continuously growing, continuously learning what's next coming down the pipe, you're not going to be able to do all of that. So we put a lot of emphasis on self-development, on understanding what's going on next, what's going on in our business, what's going on across the aisle from us, what's going on up one floor from us, and making sure that we're developing ourselves to be able to be the best we can be for our company, because if we're not doing that, our company will fail. And we've been fortunate enough that we've had great talent come through that we've been very successful, and we hope to be able to continue that. I'll turn it over to Keisha. He's going to go in a little bit more depth to the IT structure and the different groups that we have, and then focus a little bit more into the SAP space.
Great. So I thought I'd start a little bit with the context of where our SAP group sits within our IT organization. So as Shana mentioned, we have about 450 employees at corporate, out of which 250 or so are within the IT organization that fall within the structure. So essentially the way we are set up right now in our IT organization is through our different functional areas. So we have a group responsible for our infrastructure, which we call operations. And we'll get into this in a few slides here as well. Then we've got two application development and support teams. One is mine, which is the enterprise business solutions, which SAP falls underneath. The other one is around productivity solutions, which is really around Microsoft products, web, mobile development, those types of things. They also do some different application administration activities as well. And then we have a customer support organization, a group that takes care of all of our strategy, quality, ITIL processes, procedures, those types of things. And then a separate group that takes care of all of our security needs, not only for us at corporate, but is also responsible for all of our security threats across the entire enterprise and organization, which is becoming more and more important to us. So I've got a few slides here that just kind of go through each one of these. What I wanted to highlight on here, I think everyone knows customer support and services, but some of the things you see down below at the bottom of this, we're talking about roles. Those are the types of roles that we hire for and bring into the organization. From a customer support and services perspective, this is where everybody handles all the incoming calls. If people have issues with SAP, with email, whatever else the case may be, this is where folks take the first call and then route those issues accordingly to our organization. This group also is responsible for our printing and mailing for all of our bills for our different units. So for your cell phone bills, etc., they are responsible for those operations as well. If you look at these roles here for us, these roles are very, very important for the rest of the IT organization in the standpoint of these end up being feeder roles for the rest of our group. So we have a lot of folks who first come in on the support desk and will take calls, be responsible for learning just kind of how things work, the culture, etc. And then from here, as they show promise and they show interest, they come into different groups, including our SAP team. Security, as I mentioned, is getting more and more important to us. It's an area that we're investing more and more in as well. So the roles you see here around security analyst, access management specialist, and security architect are becoming much more proactive around just monitoring for threats as opposed to reacting to those types of things as hackers get more and more sophisticated. So it's not so much if someone's going to break in, it's more about when they break in and how to mitigate that. And then we also have a group that's responsible for all of our processes around ITIL. I don't know if you guys go through that as well here. But all the quality processes, procedures, we have this group kind of separated from everybody else within our IT organization to make sure that we've got somebody focused on our processes, procedures, et cetera, to make sure that the quality of the way we're delivering our processes and procedures is done through a kind of a third-party independent group that's not tied to any one of our departments. And then operations is a group that we work very, very closely with. They're the ones who maintain all the infrastructure. So we have our own data center in Madison. We use one of the OneNet facilities up in Minneapolis for our disaster recovery. So this department here is responsible for maintaining all of our infrastructure. So everything related to the servers, the compute, the storage, the network, etc. It's their responsibility to maintain all of that, working with our teams to make sure that our SLAs are being met for performance, cost, etc. And then lastly, and most importantly, is my team, at least from my perspective. The application development support team is the team that really maintains the SAP application across our enterprise. And we're really a shared service. So our SAP implementation is really the backbone for all of our back office operations. So as you can see, we do financial management, which is how we maintain all of our general ledgers and everything associated with the finance function across the enterprise. We do all of our supply chain management through SAP as well. So that is both our engineering supply chain for managing our network, which is internal to us, as well as our retail supply chain for all of the handsets and accessories and SIM cards and everything else that goes out to the retail locations when people buy new iPhones or whatever else the case may be. We also run our own HR and payroll through SAP internally, and a big focus for us going forward is around the business analytics. So we've captured all this data for all this time, and we have some pretty rudimentary reporting that we've been doing historically, and we've been trying to get much more proactive about our business analytics and utilizing the data to really understand what's going on in our enterprise. So within there, outside of those teams, we have some shared teams across the department, one of which is our programming team. So there are the team that does all the op-out programming, which I think some of you might be from the class here. We've got a team that does that for our entire division. So it's across HR, supply chain, FI, et cetera. They're the ones who maintain all of that. We have our application administration, which is our NetWeaver component. So we've got quite a few components of the SAP stack. All in all, we have about 80 systems that we're supporting between our production and test systems in our landscape. So this group is very, very busy. And then we use Oracle as our database. We've got some database administrators from that perspective, and then also our NetWeaver folks that help with the rest of the application administration. So outside of that, we are a SAP Oracle shop, and we do use some other products such as Microsoft SharePoint and some other things to help support our services. So from a roles perspective, within our team, as you can see, we've got folks that are programming in ABAP and other related languages, depending on what we're doing. We do have a group that does all of our production scheduling. So as we look through our normal day-to-day routine, and weekly routine, monthly, et cetera, they're the ones who take care of all the things happening in the system from a job scheduling perspective. We do have folks that focus on workflow, the application administration piece that I talked about earlier, the database components. We do have a separate data architect and a group that's really focused on maintaining our, looking at our structured data as well as our unstructured data as we get into more sophisticated reporting. And then a big part of what we do as well is around the business systems analyst role and IT solution analysts. So these are the folks that help maintain our requirements from the businesses and help translate for our folks on the SAP side. Here's what we need to be doing for configuration or coding, as well as helping our business users understand the capabilities of the system so we can leverage the standard components more readily. And then lastly, we do have somebody who maintains all of the web content, whether it's in our SAP portal or on some of our other reporting sites as well. So trying to break out a little bit about the different parts of the SAP platform that we use. Even though we've got those different teams, they're all interrelated, but we couldn't get it all on one slide. Didn't look very good. So this was our attempt to try to show. But as you can see, there's quite a few components that we use across the SAP landscape. Again, these are interrelated as you go slide to slide, but from a use of the system itself, we pretty much use nearly all the modules aside from things that you may use for core manufacturing. So here on the finance side, we have the standard FICO, accounts receivable, project systems, asset management, investment management, profitability analysis, tax, treasury, T-Rex is reconciliation, our interfaces into our billing systems, reporting, business intelligence, and BPC is the modules, primary modules supported here. And on the supply chain side, similarly, we use AP, SD, MM, warehouse management, fleet, MDM, APO, live cash, SRM, workflow, EDI, Optura, which is our invoice imaging system. I'll abbreviate that one. Frictionless, which we use for reverse auctions. Vertex, which is our taxing software. Cyclo, which is used in our warehouses. Reporting and BI. And then on the HR side, again, we use kind of the standard functions of time, payroll, employee data management, and then we tie in quite a bit to benefits, employee taxes, success factors for employee development, learning management system, the LMS, time entry, travel and expense, and again, reporting for BI. So fairly significant landscape there as well. And then from a NetWeaver perspective of all the different components of the stack that we maintain, we have the core ECC stack, we have BI, APO, and live cache for our forecasting. We have PI for our integration components. We have SRM, GRC, Portal, Frictionless, Business Connector, BPC, HANA, Solution Manager, Builder Direct, and we have BI twice because we think it's really, really important. But this is also the area that we're growing. Part of what we wanted to talk to you about was these are the areas that we're offering these services externally as well. So the NetWeaver area is an area for us that's very, very critical. And with that, that's the formal presentation of us talking at you. Now, Shana's going to throw candy out to anybody who asks any questions.
We want to turn this over now. I mean, obviously, we've just given you a lot of data in a fairly short period of time, and we want it to be as helpful to you as it possibly can. So please ask us questions. That's why we're here. Whether it's about the company, whether it's specifically related to SAP or any of the modules or how we're doing something, please ask us. We want this to be engaging for you as well. So at this time, the floor is yours, and we're here merely to answer questions. Yeah.
How is the TDS is taking advantage of SAP HANA?
We are just we're just evaluating it right now. Quite honestly, it's been a very, very expensive licensing model from SAP, and in the research we've done about it, the folks
That's why they've been marketing it so aggressively.
well, we dropped the price actually. Yeah. The licensing was in the 7 figures. It's now in the lower 6 figures. So yeah, it's almost free.
Now it's just pocket change for us.
We've been looking at it. We've got some folks certified in it, and we're evaluating it. We've got some test systems that we're looking at. It's probably something at some point that people will go to just because SAP will push you that way from a licensing perspective. There's really no choice. But we're not quite sure if it's ready for prime time for us yet. But we want to make sure we're ready for it, though.
Great question. Yeah.
What are positions you are looking for students and what kinds of students you are looking for?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, we don't have any specific positions that are posted. But what I will tell you is that we are actively looking into adding new internships and likely posting those, sometime in January, February timeframe for the summer. Likely somewhere in the ABAP programming space because we've got already an established program there. And then potentially into NetWeaver, which is where Keisha really wants to see some growth. So Outside of that, there could be additional ones. We also recruit in accounting and finance and other IT space, but when we talk about just SAP alone, it's going to be in programming and NetWeaver space right now. I know I had a couple students come by and ask about the reporting features, etc. We've not hosted an intern in that area before, but that doesn't mean that we won't in the future. Our internship program is ever evolving and ever changing based on the business needs that we have. So we may have some big projects that come up that will require us to bring in interns to help us out with those projects or to help us with some other, daily work that will allow others to take a step away for a moment. And, that's ever evolving and changing. So as we post positions, we will be pushing them out through Central Michigan University's Career Services site, as well as you can always upload your resume and sign up for job alerts at tds.jobs. That way, when we post a position, within 24 hours of that position going up, you receive an email notification with those.
Might elaborate a little bit more, like
Yeah.
you had a conversation with us this past noon,
Yep.
and we talked about the different entities that we have as organizations,
Yeah.
and postings do occur separately.
You bet.
And
You
not
bet.
necessarily for one clearinghouse.
Yep.
So,
Good point, Frank. So we talked about all of our business units, right, and the enterprise that we have. So when I'm recruiting mainly for TDS corporate. So the SAP positions fall under TDS corporate. However, we have US Cellular, we have Settle Strauss, we have TDS Telecom, there's OneNet, there's all those other businesses. And because we operate as standalone companies, each of those organizations has their own recruiting team and recruits separately for that. What I can tell you to make it easy, or easier, if you go out to tds.jobs, you will see all of our business units logos there. Each of those logos is a live link to their career sites. So you can do the exact same thing that I just encouraged you to do at tds.jobs, which is upload your resume and sign up for job alerts. We are a company of, over 11,000 employees. We operate out of 36 different states. We have a lot of opportunities. And our business units have, a lot of great opportunities as well, and that are going to be outside of even, Madison. So I would encourage you to take a look at all of our family of companies. And if you have questions on anything that you see on their job boards, and you're like, gosh, I really don't know, please reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can. I may not be the subject matter expert about that position or know exactly where they are in that process, but I can be a resource for you to at least reach out and say, I saw this position, I'm thinking about applying, what are your thoughts? And I'll have that conversation with you. It's totally worth my time to make that investment in you, to make sure that you're applying for positions that you truly are interested in, or not applying for something that maybe you could have. So if you question it, please reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you about it, even if it's not a TDS corporate position. Great question, thank you. Yeah?
Okay, so there's two big questions that students wanted to ask. The students don't ask them, then go through Verizon and ask them anyways.
Fantastic, sorry, I'm going to hit up Andy.
That's fine. So the first big question, and I'm excited if you guys answer this. Do you guys just say no when it comes to sponsoring international students?
We don't just say no. We say it depends. I've had a lot of conversations with students today as well. So it's a situation that we don't say yes we sponsor and we don't say no we don't sponsor, because it comes down to a lot of different factors. It depends on the position that you're applying for. It depends on a lot of different situations. What we say is we're open and we want to talk to you anyway, because you never know when that yes will be. And there's a lot of great talent out there, and we know that and we recognize that. Sometimes, unfortunately, it's not the right fit and the right match at that time, but that doesn't mean it won't be. So if there is a position that you are interested in, apply for it. Even if you feel like you're worried that, because I need sponsorship, I'm probably not going to get this position, please apply for it and shoot me a message and let me know. Because I can't say yes or no right now as to what position I'm going to be able to sponsor for or what I'm not going to be able to sponsor for, because I don't know what's going to be open at that time. Right? So it's complicated, but please keep us in mind and please apply, and we'll cross that bridge as we need to, and we'll have those conversations as we need to.
And then do you guys have a minimum GPA?
It's another really great question. We don't. It is a data point, and here is, I was talking to faculty and staff earlier about this. On the IT side of the house, what's more important to a lot of our leaders and what's more important to us as an organization, while education is a huge part of who we are, and we strongly push for people to continue educating themselves, every situation is different. And so we want to understand the full story behind the student. And quite honestly, what's more important to me when I'm talking to a student is more about what have you done outside of that classroom. Anybody can sit in a classroom and study and take a test, not everybody, but you get what I'm saying, right? But if you've not done anything outside of the classroom, I wonder if you can apply that in a job. And I'm not saying you have to have work experience. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is do you have so much passion in what you're going after that you do it on the side? Are you so excited about programming that you're going to be out looking at, okay, there's this other language that I'm really interested in, and I'm going to figure out how to code in that, and I'm going to create myself an application? Are you so excited about technology that you are reading every blog out there to find out what's coming next? I can't tell you how many times I talk to students where I am blown away at the information that they know that our leaders may not even have insight into what's going on out in the industry. Those are the students we want. Because you are so passionate about what you're doing it outside of the classroom. It's not because it's asked of you, you're doing it because you want to. That means that when I bring you into our organization, we've got 200 plus applications that we are responsible for. Not one person's going to know all of that, but somebody who's constantly tinkering or learning something about the technology that they want to be using is going to come in and they're going to thrive because I'm going to be able to teach them very quickly what they need to know. Because it's just who they are. They want to be studying it. They want to be learning. They want to be doing that next technology.
So being a member of this group was pretty good.
It does, absolutely. And being active in that group, right? Having those internships, doing things on the side, working on projects, including all of that on your resume is what's going to help you stand out from somebody else. Yep. And so while GPA is important to a point, it's a data point. Okay, thank you. That was a great question.
I say also as a company culture point, we move a lot of people around in a lot of different positions, and part of what Shannon was alluding to, we look for learning agility. Right? So people who've done a lot of different things, who've worked in a lot of different areas, and a lot of times Shana and the rest of the recruiting team will bring candidates to our attention. We're like, I interviewed this person for this role over here, but really, in my conversation with them, they seem like they might be a really good fit for your team over here. And at first sight, you might be like, you're crazy. But in reality, there's a lot of people with a lot of great talent who can fit a lot of different roles. So to the point Shannon was making earlier, don't be afraid to apply and have a conversation with us, because there may be another role that may not be so obvious that you might be a great fit for.
Good question, thank you. It's one that I'm most passionate about, I think. Yes.
These are my questions.
I need to take your candy back so I can give it to him now.
I'll see him tomorrow morning, so
He'll give it to you? Okay, good.
I just forgot, I stole one from your
Oh,
table.
fantastic, yay.
You're the one.
I am the one. Yeah, if you're one short. I see you had GRC up there. Is that kind of from the technical authorizations point of view for GRC, or are you also looking at kind of having controls, more of the accounting focus? It's something we have been trying to build into the curriculum here. We're working on the technical systems and stuff, and I'm just curious how you guys are kind of doing that.
It's mostly from the access management standpoint.
Okay.
We've looked at it from a control standpoint. We haven't implemented that all the way yet, but right now it's primarily around just the access management components.
And that seems fairly common in the industry, right?
Yeah.
That's another one of those things that may not be quite suited yet.
Yeah, I think we looked at it about, I want to say about a year and a half ago, and it just wasn't quite ready yet for what we wanted to do. But it's pretty good for access management.
And that's similar to other companies we've talked to where it's more of a technical initiative.
Yeah.
Than a Sarbanes-Oxley fix-all.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
SOX, our favorite acronym. Come on, I've got a lot more candy here, folks, and I know you've got questions. I'm not going to be afraid to push you on this. We're new to campus. What do you want to know about us? 'Cause I didn't tell you everything I knew. Thank you. Yes, the back.
Could you talk a little bit more about the vision intelligence tools you use under business analytics, maybe SAP Lumira or Spotify or something like that?
Okay, I did not hear that. all
Was
the
it
way.
around the tools we use for analytics?
Any intelligence tools that you use or data visualization tools which you use as part of SAP Business Intelligence?
Sure. Yep, so we just, last year, we bought the Business Objects Visual Analytics suite. So that's the tool that we are using right now to build out our dashboards and all of our reporting around. So it's Business Objects, which we had before SAP bought them. And then our licensing went up.
It seems every application we purchase, SAP comes back
Yeah.
and buys it as well, so
Yeah.
we end up getting more and more money for it.
So do you use like Bex or Lumira or what's kind of?
We used to, yeah, so we're trying to phase some of that out and primarily going with Business Objects. Yeah, we do have Bex and environment as well. And then our business units, it probably wasn't so obvious. As Shana mentioned earlier that each of our business units have their own IT departments with their own tools. So for things that are specific to them, they have their own business warehouses and their own reporting tools. So part of what we're trying to do is kind of get our house in order and then allowing folks to tie that stuff together across the enterprise as well. So we have quite a bit of work to do, not so much from a technical perspective as it is from a data governance and process perspective of who defines what, how you define revenue, which might seem like a really silly point, but having those common definitions is not always common, I guess. So that's more of what our issue is in that area.
So I want to understand what the T, when you talk about telephone, what you do you guys have your own telephone you configure? Do you generate your own ESN number, electronic serial numbers, or do you attach yourself to other bigger communication companies like you work for them? Or based on, I'm trying to figure it out from what I'm reading here, but then it's kind of vast.
Sure.
Just give me a...
So from the wireless side?
Yeah,
Yeah.
telephone, when you deal with telephone.
Sure. So we have our own wireless network. So we have our own towers. We have our full own network out there, an LTE, 4G LTE network that's in place now with our customers. We do have roaming agreements with Verizon, AT&T, and others for when you are off network. But we do have our entire own private network.
So you have a kind of your own channel for programming channel for phone.
Yeah.
Verizon can buy and then integrate their network into it, right?
Yeah, well, everybody has their own, so I don't know how familiar you are with the stuff, right? So we have our own bands that are allowed.
The
Right.
bandwidth.
Yeah. So same, like if you buy an iPhone 6 from us, it'll work on our network and then it'll also roam on the other networks, or Samsung or whatever else it is. So yeah.
Does that answer your question? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's it.
You only get candy if we answer your question, I guess.
No, I just was waiting. I wanted to make sure I wasn't interrupting as you were continuing talking. Aisha and I have been working together for 11 years, so there's a lot of banter that goes back and forth.
So two questions. If I'm a newly graduated student and I decide I want to get into this NetWeaver thing, kind of what would be the lowest skill level I could have to get in there? And then the second thing is, why is Madison a great place to live? So I know the second one's easier, but
Yeah. The lowest skill level for NetWeaver.
for you to consider what one of
Students?
our students apply, kind of what would be sort of the kind of the
Baseline
not
expectations?
baseline thing. Yeah, not the ideal thing, but kind of.
Yeah. We actually did an internal, bit of an experiment. We took a couple of Unix administrators people who had some experience in Unix itself and put them upstairs onto the NetWeaver team. So from our operations group, and just stuck them on the team.
Because you keep the OS guys in the basement.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
Where the data center is.
It's safer there.
It's
So-
really comfortable.
Yeah, and what we found was that it's actually a pretty transferable skill. I think somebody who just has good technical aptitude and understands how technology works at that layer and that level is somebody who can probably pick it up. Now, there's a lot of nuance to it, and each of the components of the stack are very different. Dealing with the portal, with the Java complexities, or dealing with PI versus ECC, etc. There are some nuances there, but what we found is those folks who had the experience in the Unix area were able to pick it up relatively quickly. And that's been one way that we've tried to increase our capacity on the team, is by taking folks who are at that, Unix. We haven't tried with the Windows folks because we're not Windows based, but the Unix folks and storage. We tried it with a storage administrator as well, and they seem to pick it up pretty easily. So I think it's more about the type of person you are and how you learn than it is about the skill set itself.
TDS oversees the SAP aspects that you're running for a client that you're doing service for. Can you profile those clients that are out there?
Sure.
Big, small, are they baby pajamas, or are they giants, or who are you, and you're running the SAP sort of like a university competency center out of Milwaukee. You're providing this software and server, and you're running their data. They're sending the data to you, and you process it.
Yeah.
Kick it back. I mean, is it that? Am I envisioning this model?
Very, very close, actually. We like to think we're running it better than Milwaukee. But
We are familiar with them.
no, so the way the model works is, so I'll give you the example of the customer we just turned up, which is one we were really actually pretty excited about. It's Fender Music Corporation. So all the guitars and things. So if you want to talk about a really cool place to go visit, all the,
I've been after Frank to take a trip out to California to visit Fender.
the Corona
And
factories.
so far, he hasn't helped, but maybe you guys can do
You might
something.
be able to pull that off.
Yeah. Well, it's funny.
Well, there's a client. How did they find you? Why would they? How did Fender select you? Were you out there knocking on doors? Or?
No, it's actually really interesting. So this is how it works. So their corporate office was next to the OneNeck office. So we acquired OneNeck several years ago, and they happened to share office space next to them. And so OneNeck had just started doing some hosting, and these guys were like, we got this SAP thing, we got these other things. What do you guys do? So they talked about it maybe, about 3 years ago when we first acquired OneNeck. And then OneNeck didn't have any SAP expertise at all. We acquired them, and they're like, hey, you guys do SAP, these guys want us to do SAP. So initially we took over their GRC system and maintained that. And then they sort of liked the service that was provided, and then they said, could you do the whole stack? And so we transitioned them all to new hardware, put them into our data center, and we basically provide everything basis and below. So we provide them all of the basis, transports, that type of service, monitoring of their systems. We do the Unix layer, solid compute, storage, network. All of that is us for them. And so typically, the customers that we're not talking to are mid-market customers, which we define as about $1 billion in revenue and below, about $250 million to $1 billion, maybe $1.2 billion in that range, and similar service.
So how many modules are you running for Fender? 12 modules?
It would be, so they're a relatively simple landscape compared to ours. So they just have ECC, BI, and GRC, and we have a 3 landscape models. So we've got a dev, test, and a production system in each of those.
Better understanding.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to get back to your second question too, because you asked about Madison.
Why is Madison a fantastic place to live?
Well, first of all, Keisha and I are there.
Way more Shayna.
No, so I'm probably biased. I grew up just outside of Madison. I've been there outside of 4 years of my life. I've spent my entire life there. You know, Madison is not unlike, you know, a lot of the communities that we see around here, right? It's centered around the University of Madison, so it's a college town. Has a lot of, you know, has won awards year over year over year as being top places to live in the country. There's a lot of great opportunities. Schools are fantastic. It's clean, fairly safe. Crime rates are fairly low. You know, a lot of activity, arts and entertainment is big in the Madison area. The communities just outside of Madison, all the smaller communities outside of Madison are also fantastic. And so that area, that I'll call it Dane County, that's the county we're in, is really sprawling, and it is a fantastic place to raise a family. Lots of job opportunities. I've seen, you know, the biomedical industry is really taking off in that area. But the university brings a lot to us, and that's, I think, really helpful. We've got lots of outdoor activities. If you're an outdoors person, we've got lakes and rivers and hunting and fishing and skiing and, you know, you name it, you can probably do it in the Madison community. And, you know, it's fantastic. I don't know, Keisha, you've lived in other locations and been in other locations. Maybe you've got a better perspective. I'm, like I said, slightly biased, but...
No, it's a fantastic place. I would actually make a plug. There's a lot of great places to live. I would actually make a plug for TDS as a company and being located there from a career perspective. As Shay mentioned, I did consulting for a long time. I lived a lot of different places and worked with a lot of different companies and clients. And what I would say is, whether you choose TDS or wherever you go in your career, I would just make sure that you pick a place that really allows you to grow and learn and stretch yourself and be kind of uncomfortable in different roles. The nice thing about TDS has been, for me personally, is that it just affords you a lot of opportunity to do a lot of different things. And I think if you work in a place like that, you'll probably end up being happy wherever you are, whether it's Madison or Chicago or Mount Pleasant or any other place like that. Because you spend a lot of time and effort at work, and you just have to make sure that part is really happy, really good. So enjoy that first. But if you have to pick a place to live, Madison is a good place.
Yeah, very clean. Very clean.
Winters suck though.
It's not different than here, though, I'm just going to say.
It's probably about the same as here.
It is, right? We deal with a lot of cold, we deal with a lot of snow, but we get all 4 seasons. And if you like all 4 seasons, this is a good place to be, right?
And you have a pretty good football team.
We have a fantastic football team, I'm not going to lie. On both the pro and the collegiate level. We've got some really great athletic teams. So if you're a sports fanatic, Wisconsin is a great place to be. I get passionate about a few things. That might be one of them as well.
And the beer's fantastic.
And cheese. Lots of microbreweries in Wisconsin. If you're a beer and wine connoisseur, you've got a lot of options. It's we're really fortunate. Really
I'm
good.
sure the students would love to walk forward and be able to just interact with you for
Yeah, absolutely.
a number of minutes.
Sure.
All right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Please walk forward.